Ethan had always been fascinated by stars. From the small observatory on Earth, he used to watch them, imagining the countless worlds that might exist. Now, standing on the surface of Lithera, a planet bathed in violet light and dotted with crystalline towers, he realized he was living that dream. He had been sent here as part of an exploratory mission, a human among a world of aliens where every step was careful, and every interaction could decide the future of relations between his people and the alien civilization. The city was alive with color and sound. Floating markets hovered in the air, selling fruits that shimmered with light, fabrics that seemed woven from liquid crystal, and small devices that hummed with energy. Ethan wandered through them, taking careful notes, trying to stay unnoticed while observing everything. His eyes, however, kept drifting to one figure who had captured his attention, a young alien girl with silver hair and eyes that glowed faintly like moonlight. She watched him quietly from the edge of a bridge, her gaze curious and intense. Ethan had studied alien behavior extensively, but something about her was different. She did not look at him with fear or disdain, or even the detached curiosity that most Litherans had for humans. She seemed intrigued, almost testing him silently. He felt a strange pull to understand her, to know why she lingered at the edge of his awareness. Later that evening, after hours of exploration, Ethan found himself invited to a place he had not been meant to see, Leora's private quarters. It was a luminous room, with walls that glimmered softly and floating lights that danced like fireflies. Strange musical notes emitted from a crystal device in the corner floated around them, adding a rhythm to the quiet tension in the air. Leora stood near the center of the room, her posture both confident and hesitant. "Human," she said finally, her voice soft but firm. "Will you stay if I undress?" Ethan froze for a fraction of a second. He had expected curiosity, questions about Earth, or even mistrust. But this was different. The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. He noticed the faint tremor in her hands and the way her glowing eyes avoided his for a moment. It was clear she was not asking to provoke him. She was testing him. He looked at her calmly, choosing his words with care. "I am here to know you," he said slowly. "Not just your body, but who you are, what you think, and how you see the world." For a moment, silence filled the room. Leora's lips parted slightly, as if she had not expected such an answer. Most humans, she thought, would react with desire or confusion. This human, however, seemed different. He was not shallow, and he did not look at her as an object. His respect was palpable, and that made her pause. "You speak of things uncommon for your kind," she said finally. Her voice was quieter now, almost a whisper. "Why?" Ethan smiled, a small understanding smile. "Because respect and curiosity are not limited by species. I have seen your people, your world. I have read about Lithera, but I want to understand it, and you, for myself, not from someone else's words." Leora studied him carefully, her glowing eyes narrowing slightly as she tried to read him. She had grown up in a society where appearances were everything, where trust was earned slowly and cautiously. Humans were rare, and most of them behaved predictably. But Ethan was unpredictable in the best way. He made her reconsider everything she thought she knew about the other species. Over the next few hours, they talked. Ethan asked questions about Lithera's history, the way her people governed themselves, and the stories that were passed down through generations. Leora, in turn, began to share details she had never told another human or even most Litherans. She spoke of her dreams, her fears, and the weight of expectation she carried. As the conversation deepened, Ethan learned that Leora was not just curious about him. She was cautious, afraid of being judged or misunderstood, but also eager to find someone who could see beyond the surface. Humans, he explained, were capable of forming bonds based on respect, empathy, and shared understanding. These were things her society rarely encouraged. At one point, Leora moved to a balcony that overlooked the city. Crystals in the sky reflected the violet light, casting a gentle glow over the streets below. Ethan followed, standing beside her, silent for a moment as they both watched the alien city. "It's beautiful," Ethan said softly, "but also complicated. So much history, so many rules. I can see why it might be difficult to trust anyone." Leora nodded. "Yes, my people value order above all. Curiosity can be dangerous. Freedom is dangerous." Her voice was tinged with melancholy. "But you are different." Ethan turned to look at her. "I want to understand, not control. I want to learn, not take." That is why I am here. That is why I will stay. Leora felt a warmth she could not name. She had tested him, as she had tested many others, but he had passed in a way she had not expected. He did not see her as a puzzle or a challenge. He saw her as a person with thoughts, feelings, and the right to be treated with dignity. As night deepened, they remained on the balcony, speaking quietly about dreams, hopes, and the things that made them human or Lithuran. Ethan shared stories of Earth, the stars, the oceans, the forests, and the people who lived among them. He spoke of courage, love, failure, and triumph, not as abstract ideas but as lived experiences. Leora listened, captivated not just by the stories but by the way he spoke of them with sincerity and humility. By the time they returned to the room, a bond had formed, fragile but real. Leora began to see Ethan not as a human explorer or a visitor, but as someone who could be trusted, someone who could challenge her assumptions and open her mind. She felt a strange mix of emotions, curiosity, admiration, and something deeper she could not yet define. Before Ethan left that night, he looked at her and said, "Leora, I don't know what the future holds, but I promise this. I will not leave because of fear or misunderstanding. I will stay as long as I am needed and wanted as a friend." Leora's eyes shimmered with emotion. She had never expected a human to speak in such a way. Most of her interactions with humans had been transactional or superficial. Ethan was different, and that difference mattered more than anything. As he walked back to his quarters under the alien stars, Ethan felt a quiet satisfaction. He had come to Lithra as an explorer, tasked with observing and reporting. Yet in meeting Leora, he had discovered something far more valuable, the beginning of a connection that transcended species, culture, and expectation. And Leora, standing by her balcony, felt a flutter of hope she had never felt before. Perhaps humans could see what Litherans often could not, the value of understanding, patience, and respect. Perhaps, just perhaps, this human was not like the others. The night stretched on, filled with the gentle hum of the city and the soft glow of the crystals. And in that quiet, both human and alien sensed the spark of something rare, a connection that could grow, a trust that could last, and the possibility that, together, they could discover a new way of seeing each other's worlds. For Leora, the question that had begun with testing, "Will you stay if I undress?" no longer mattered. What mattered was that he had chosen to stay anyway, not for appearances but for her mind and spirit. That choice, she realized, was far more shocking and remarkable than anything she had imagined. And for Ethan, the night was only the beginning. He had come to study an alien world, but he had found a story that was bigger than any mission report. A story of trust, courage, and the quiet power of respect, capable of bridging the gap between stars, species, and hearts. The morning on Lithra was unlike any morning Ethan had ever experienced. The violet light of the twin suns washed over the city, reflecting off the crystalline towers and creating patterns that danced like liquid across the streets. Ethan rose early, not because of duty but because he wanted to continue exploring with Leora. The connection they had formed the night before lingered in his mind, a quiet warmth that made the alien city feel less foreign. He found Leora waiting on the balcony of her quarters, her silver hair glowing faintly in the morning light. She smiled as she saw him approaching. "You're early," she said, a hint of amusement in her voice. "Most humans would still be asleep." "I wanted to see the city at this light," Ethan replied. "It shows things differently. Details we might miss later." Leora nodded. "You notice things humans usually overlook. Perhaps that is why I trusted you last night." Her words were soft, yet there was a seriousness in them. Ethan felt the weight of her trust, rare, delicate, and powerful. They set out together, moving through parts of the city that were hidden from ordinary citizens and visitors. Narrow streets twisted between crystalline towers, leading to courtyards filled with floating gardens and fountains that shimmered with colors beyond human description. Leora explained that these were the forgotten spaces, places where Litherans came to think, to dream, or to be alone with their thoughts. As they walked, Ethan asked questions, carefully, respectfully. "Do you always feel confined by the rules of your society?" Leora's gaze flickered to the sky. "Confined? Yes, often. My people value order and conformity. Curiosity is tolerated only when it serves the collective. To explore for personal understanding is unusual, dangerous even. Ethan considered this. On Earth, curiosity is encouraged. Mistakes are seen as learning opportunities. Perhaps it is a difference in perspective. Leora looked at him closely, her glowing eyes narrowing slightly. Perhaps, but you humans are so unpredictable. I have been cautious around others, yet you do not treat me as a problem to solve or a puzzle to break. You simply listen. Ethan smiled, a genuine warmth in his eyes. Listening is the first step to understanding. Without it, respect is impossible. For the next few hours, they explored forgotten libraries filled with floating holographic scrolls, ancient gardens where the air shimmered with tiny motes of energy, and abandoned towers where Leora had once come as a child to escape scrutiny. She spoke of her dreams of seeing beyond Lithera, of meeting beings unlike her own kind, of understanding worlds humans and aliens alike rarely discussed. Ethan listened, fascinated not only by the details of her world but by the emotion behind her words. He realized that this girl, who had appeared bold and confident, carried a longing that most of her society had buried beneath layers of expectation and duty. His heart, human though it was, ached to see her struggle and yet admire her courage. At one point, they paused on a balcony overlooking a vast river of liquid crystal that flowed through the city. The water reflected the twin suns like a ribbon of stars. Leora turned to him, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Will you stay if I undress?" she asked again, half teasing, half serious. Ethan chuckled softly. "I stay because I want to know you, not because of appearances." "That will not change." The simplicity and sincerity of his words made her blink. She had expected humans to falter, to stumble, to react with desire or confusion. Yet he remained calm, respectful, and focused on her mind and spirit rather than her form. She felt a surge of something unfamiliar, admiration, trust, and perhaps even the beginnings of affection. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from Leora's personal device. A faction of Litheran officials had detected Ethan's presence and were sending envoys to question her loyalty. In Lithera, interactions with humans were heavily monitored and unauthorized contact could be seen as a serious breach of law. Ethan noticed the tension immediately. "Is this dangerous?" he asked. Leora's eyes darkened. "It could be. They will demand I explain why a human is here, and they may not accept my answers. I could be punished or worse." Ethan took a deep breath. "Then we prepare. Together." They quickly moved through hidden corridors and secret passages using knowledge only Leora possessed. Ethan observed everything, learning to move quietly, to anticipate patterns, and to think like a Litheran in ways his training on Earth could never teach. Together they reached a secluded courtyard far from the main towers, a place where few eyes could see them. As the envoys arrived, Ethan stepped forward, not with fear, but with calm determination. He spoke first in the formal Litheran language he had studied. "We mean no harm. We are explorers seeking understanding, not conflict." The envoys paused, clearly surprised by his competence. Leora stepped beside him, standing tall, and added her own voice to his. "He is not a threat. He respects our laws and our people. I trust him." The combination of human reasoning and Litheran authority gave them leverage. The envoys, though wary, could not immediately argue against her words. Ethan suggested a solution, a demonstration of cooperation between human and Litheran understanding. They would show that curiosity, respect, and intelligence could bridge differences without breaking laws or endangering anyone. Over the next few hours, Ethan and Leora worked together to prove their intentions. Ethan used his human ingenuity to solve technical problems with energy flows and holographic systems in the city, while Leora provided insight into Litheran customs and protocols. Slowly, the tension eased. The envoys began to see that cooperation was not only possible but beneficial. After the officials departed, Leora leaned against a crystal pillar, exhausted but relieved. "I did not think humans could do this," she admitted softly. "You are not just brave. You are patient, wise, and understanding. Perhaps more than my people sometimes are." Ethan smiled. "We are all capable of courage when it matters. The trick is to care enough to act, even when it is risky." As night fell again, they returned to the balcony where they had begun their day. The city glowed with the soft luminescence of thousands of crystals, reflecting the stars above. Leora turned to Ethan, a small, almost shy smile playing on her lips. You stayed. You stayed even when it was difficult, even when it could have been dangerous. I stayed, Ethan said simply. Because I want to be here with you, learning and understanding. That has never changed. Leora felt a rush of emotions she had never felt before. Humans had always seemed unpredictable, often self-centered or careless. But Ethan was different. He valued her thoughts, her fears, her dreams, not just her presence or her appearance. The depth of his respect and sincerity left her speechless, a rare occurrence in her carefully controlled life. I trust you, she said finally, her voice trembling slightly. Perhaps more than I should. You can trust me, Ethan replied gently. I will not betray it. For the first time, Leora allowed herself to relax fully, to feel the simple comfort of companionship. They watched the stars together in silence. No words needed to convey the trust and connection that had formed. The days that followed were filled with exploration, learning, and small moments of shared laughter. Ethan and Leora discovered hidden archives of Lytheran history, experimented with energy patterns in the floating gardens, and even tried foods from Earth that Ethan had brought in small, concealed packages. Each moment strengthened their bond, a friendship that transcended worlds. Eventually, Leora realized something profound. The question she had asked in jest, or perhaps in testing, "Will you stay if I undress?" was no longer relevant. What mattered was the trust, respect, and understanding that had grown between them. Ethan had proven that connection could exist without expectation, without fear, and without compromise of dignity. In a society where appearances and conformity were prized above all else, Ethan had shown her that true courage lay in empathy, patience, and the willingness to see beyond the obvious. Leora's world, once rigid and predictable, had expanded in ways she had never imagined, and Ethan, standing beside her under the alien sky, understood that he had come to Lythera to observe a civilization, but had found something far more important, a bond that bridged the gap between species, a friendship rooted in respect, and the promise of a future built on understanding rather than fear. The story of that day, of their courage, patience, and connection, would remain with both of them forever. It was a reminder that even in worlds filled with rules, expectation, and danger, humans could shine in ways that inspired trust, loyalty, and wonder. Leora no longer doubted the human capacity for depth and honor, and Ethan had found a companion who could teach him as much as he taught her. As they sat together on the balcony, gazing at the twin moons rising over the city, neither spoke for a long time. Words were unnecessary. They had discovered something rare, a mutual understanding, a respect that transcended language, species, and expectation. In that quiet under the violet light and crystalline towers, Leora and Ethan shared a moment that would shape both of their lives forever. The alien city of Lythera continued to shine, indifferent yet welcoming, a place of mystery and challenge, and within it, a human and an alien girl had discovered that connection. Courage and understanding were stronger than fear, stronger than prejudice, and stronger than the rules that bound them. For Leora, Ethan,